Come on in, pull up a chair, and take a load off because today I will be sharing a bit of a how to play, as well as reviewing Bang, the dice game, as well as its most recent expansion, Undead or Alive. So, is this must have dice chucking push your luck fun? Or should the game have been entitled Thud, the dice game? Well, you'll find out right after this. Howdy, howdy, howdy. Yes, I'm Jeff McAleer, back once again as your host at the Gaming Gang channel. So, as I mentioned in the open, I will be sharing a bit of a how to play and reviewing both Bang, the dice game, as well as its most recent expansion, which I believe arrived at Gen Con this past summer. That is Undead or Alive. Now, I do want to point out Bang, the dice game, and its expansion are from White Goblin Games and Giochi, which I believe translates into Da Vinci Games. Bang, the dice game, and its expansion are designed by Michael Palm and Lucas Zach, with artwork provided by Riccardo Piericini. I'm hoping I got close on that pronunciation. The core game does carry an MSRP of $17.99. The expansion carries an MSRP of $14.99. So let's swing on over to the other camera, and I will start showing you how to play. All right, so we're going to start off. We're going to actually take a look at the core box for Bang, the dice game. And I'll be the first to admit, I had never played Bang. And I know there's going to be plenty of people out there wondering, how in the world have you never played Bang, Jeff? Just haven't. There are thousands of games out there I've never played. Bang just happens to be one of them. But this is a Wild West sort of take that game. Basically, the dice game for Bang is porting over the regular game of Bang and speeding up the process, speeding up the gameplay, and of course, adding a dice chucking, push your luck element to the game as well. So I am going to kind of explain the game a little bit, explain the dice, and then we will also take a look at Undead or Alive, the expansion to Bang, the dice game. All right, so first off, depending on the number of players you have, and you can play 3 to 8, which I like the fact that you can have up to 8 players at the table, because this makes a really cool game to bust out at parties. So each of the players are going to receive a secret role unless they receive the sheriff card. So depending on the number of players, you're going to have a sheriff, you're going to have at least one outlaw, and you're going to have at least one renegade. There are some special rules if you're only playing with 3 players. Well, let's say, as an example, we've got 8 players at the table. We've got the full complement of players. You would have 3 outlaws, 2 renegades, a sheriff, as well as 2 deputies. So the way this is playing out is the sheriff and the deputies win if the renegades and the outlaws are taken out. The outlaws win if the sheriff ends up getting taken out. Deputies, doesn't matter about the deputies. It just has to be the sheriff has to be eliminated. And the renegades win, and only one renegade will win if they're the last person standing. So the renegade is a little bit tougher to play as opposed to the sheriff, the deputies, and the outlaws as well. But it can be kind of fun because there's actually a social deduction aspect to the game as well, because the only character you're going to know who someone is the sheriff. So the sheriff is revealed once these cards are dealt out to the different players. So everyone's going to know who the sheriff is, but you don't know who anybody else is. You don't know who the outlaws are, the deputies, or the renegades. And of course, part of you playing the game is trying to convince the other people of who you are. Once again, being a renegade is kind of tough because there's only going to be one renegade left standing to be the winner. So it's much easier for the law, the law officers to win, and it's much easier for the outlaws to win as opposed to being a renegade. But I kind of like that aspect too, where you're playing the renegade is kind of your Clint Eastwood almost, kind of man with no name sort of character. So everybody's going to get that. So let's say we've got our three outlaws, we got our two renegades, we got the sheriff, and we got a couple of deputies in the game here. Everyone's each going to get a character card as well. And these character cards are going to explain how many hits you can take, what your health is, which is represented by these bullets, as well as what is your special ability. Now, keeping in mind, this is for up to 8 players, there are 16 characters for you to have. So these characters are played face up. So everybody's going to know, okay, so I am Lucky Duke. So I start off with 8 health, and I may make 1 extra reroll with my dice. That's my special ability. Special abilities on these characters are pretty good. There aren't any that are just like completely like, what? That's totally lame. These are actually pretty powerful abilities. So everybody is going to have a cool, unique ability that they'll be able to play as. And once again, as I said, these characters will be played face up. So everybody's going to know what the other characters are at the table. They just don't know what role they play in the game. So we'll get these kind of out of the way. Let's talk about some other stuff. So we've got all these tokens here. These tokens represent your health. So of course, if you had a character, let's say, remember, I'm Lucky Duke, I would have 8. So I start off with 8. As I take hits, I will lose these bullets. I will lose my health. If I get to 0 health, then I am kaput. I am out. I am out of the game. There are dice that will allow me to get health back. There is also a die face that allows me to give health back. So, for an example, if I were playing as a deputy and I see that the sheriff's in trouble and I roll one of these dice to give health, I might give that health to the sheriff. So that is one of the aspects of the deputies trying to keep the sheriff alive. All right. So we've got that. So everybody's going to have their health tokens. And then also in the middle of the table, we are going to put arrows. There are 9 arrows. And this represents the Native Americans messing with us too, fighting with us. So you might be forced to take an arrow. And when you take an arrow, nothing happens until somebody takes the final arrow that's in the center of the table. Once that final arrow is taken, everybody who has arrows is going to deduct that number of health points. So if I had 2 arrows and somebody takes the last arrow, I'm going to lose 2 health. They all go back into the center once again. Everybody gets, well, I shouldn't say everybody because there aren't 8. There are 6 of these player aids. So they tell you exactly what each face of the die does as well. So if you're playing with 8 people, just, spread these around so that everybody has quick access to snag one of these. So let's talk about what each of these die faces do. So first off, let's start with the numbers. So if I get a number 1, that means I can shoot somebody who is sitting next to me. So I can shoot somebody who's sitting on either side of me, to my left or my right. Can't fight anybody else. That's it. So as an example, in an 8-player game, it can be kind of tough at the beginning. In fact, it's almost pretty much impossible for you to do damage to the player who's right across from you. So, but that I like that. I like that aspect. So you're not sitting there with the ability to just shoot at anybody at the table, at least not in the core game of Bang the Dice game. If you roll a 2, that means you can shoot at somebody who is 2 spots away from you. So either 2 on my right or 2 on my left. When I shoot at somebody, that means they're going to take 1 point of damage. So they're going to lose 1 health point. We also have the arrow, as I mentioned before. If you get an arrow, then you must take one of the arrows from the center of the table and keep that. We also have beer. Beer is the die face that I can either gain a point of health myself or I can give a point of health back to someone else at the table. Dynamite doesn't do anything, but if you roll dynamite, you cannot re-roll that die. So you have to keep that die off to the side. If you end up with 3 dynamites, then the dynamite explodes and your turn ends. You lose 1 point of health. Then we also have the Gatling gun. So the Gatling gun allows us to damage everybody at the table. Everyone at the table, except for yourself, is going to take a point of damage. But in order to do that, you must roll 3 of the Gatling gun symbols. We'll point out you only have a limited number of rerolls as well. So you can roll up to 3 times. So I'll give you an example. Let me roll this. So I got a couple of arrows. I've got a dynamite. I've got a 2. And I've got a beer. So I don't have to keep these arrows. I can re-roll these arrows. I can actually re-roll any of these 4 dice if I want. So I'm actually going to just keep those 2, and then I'm going to re-roll these dice here. So I get another arrow, and I get a 1. Now I can have my 3rd time to re-roll. If I wanted to, I could actually re-roll these dice. I could re-roll these dice for my third re-roll simply because I did not re-roll these before. So we're looking at this right now. I'm going to re-roll this 1 die. There's my 3rd one. So I got the Gatling gun. So the Gatling gun does nothing for me. The dynamite's going to do nothing for me. But I'm able to shoot and damage a player 1 spot on my right or left. I can do the same with somebody on my right or left. And I can either take a point of health or give a point of health away. Very, very simple to play. This plays really, really fast. Now, granted, it's basically supposedly you can play in about 15 minutes. If you have 8 people at the table, it is a little bit longer than that. Not a lot, just a little bit. I have heard that regular game of Bang can drag on. This really doesn't. This really does move pretty quickly, especially since you figure you've got, let's say we had 8 people at the table. Well, 5 of them are trying to take the sheriff out, right? So what the Renegades need to do is the Renegades kind of need to focus on outlaws first. Because if the sheriff were eliminated, even if we still have Renegades here, the outlaws win because the outlaws are trying to knock out the sheriff. Whereas the Renegades are looking to take out everyone. So that's something to keep in mind as well. But the game does zip along. It rocks along really, really nicely. So that is the core game, and I really, really dig the core game. Fits in a nice box. You can easily toss this in a backpack, or it's going to stay in my car because the gang really enjoyed playing this. So easily portable, take it wherever you want. So we also have, and I do want to point out, it's only 1 sheet of rules. So very, very easy to get into the game. There is player elimination, obviously enough, but the game doesn't drag on. So if you're like the first person knocked out of the game, that you're sitting there for an hour with nothing to do. So Very, very easy peasy to get into. Really like it. The quality of the components is really nice. Good card stock, really nice card stock on these cards. The dice are cut, so this is not just simply painted on or um, scanned on to the dice. So these are actually cut dice. All right, so let's talk a little bit about Undead or Alive. So this is the most recent expansion for Bang, the dice game. I believe this came out at Gen Con. Almost positive this came out at Gen Con. I received this from DaVinci Games after the fact, after Gen Con, but I think this came out at Gen Con. So you would think, okay, so it's just adding some zombies to the mix. The reality is, it's actually adding 5 optional modules that you can either utilize all of them if you want, which is actually going to make the gameplay quite a bit longer, or just plug in whatever module you like. So first off, we've got a couple of new dice, and these 2 new dice have 2 new faces on them. So on these are considered the dual dice. So on the dual dice, the beer has been replaced with the whiskey bottle. And of course, we do have a couple of little player aids to tell you, okay, so what does all this stuff do? Oh, one thing I should mention with the Gatling gun. If you get the Gatling gun, sorry about this, kind of backtracking. If you're able to roll all 3 and you're able to fire off the Gatling gun, not only do you get to damage everybody else at the table with 1 point, you also get to kick in all of your arrows. So you get rid of all of your arrows. You don't have to worry about those any longer. Okay, so we've got the whiskey and we've got the duel. So first off, let's talk about dueling, because dueling allows you to actually pick a player at the table to try to fight. So what you're going to do if you're utilizing these dual dice is you're going to take 2 of the base dice out of the game. So you still have your 5 dice. You're going to roll these 5. So we still have dynamite. We still have arrows, things like that. But if we get the dual die, I can choose someone at the table. Doesn't matter if they're right next to me or 2 spots away. I can challenge them to a duel. So what they get to do is they will roll the dual die as well. There we go. That's pretty cool. So what happens here is if they roll the dual symbol, then they don't take any damage. Now I have to roll this again to see if I take damage. So I need to roll another dual die, which I did not. So that means I lost the duel. So I have to take a point of damage. Plus, I also have to take a counter, which are all laid down face down. And these are dual counters. So if you lose a duel, you have to take one of these. So, for an example, so I get this. That means on my next turn, I automatically have 1 dynamite. We may get something like that, which means this negates one of my beer rolls. If I roll a beer, this negates that. Many of these will negate something. So that's going to negate a 1 shot. When I'm shooting at somebody right next to me on the left or the right. So not only does losing the duel cost you a point, the after effects of losing the duel are going to carry over into your next turn. But I like the fact that now we have the ability to use to actually try to damage somebody who is not right near us, especially in an 8-player game. Especially if you're starting off and you're an outlaw, and for whatever reason you think the deputies are near the sheriff and you can't get to them, right? So I like that. I like that die as well. Then we get the whiskey jug. So if you roll a whiskey jug, what that allows you to do is you get to gain a health. Now you can't give it away. You take the health yourself, And you also get to discard one of your dual tokens. So you get rid of one of those. Also, if you don't have any dual dice, you can take a rage card. So we have some new cards here. We've got these rage cards, which if you take 2 or more points of damage in your turn, in the entire turn, you get a rage card. These rage cards are usually pretty good. They do something good for you because now you've been shot up. Now you're pissed, right? That's why it's a rage card. So, as an example, this would give me a beer. That automatically gives me a one shot. That automatically gives me two. Plus, I can utilize this if I take a. I can get a dual icon, I should say, if I take dynamite. So, all these are pretty cool. So, like that, and that is another aspect of the. It's called the "Look Me in the Eyes" module for the game itself. Then we've got the 2 bullets are enough. So effectively, 2 bullets are enough is the rage cards. So you can plug the rage cards in. Personally, if I'm going to use these dual dice, I'm going to use both the dueling as well as the rage cards, both together. Then we've got new Posse in town, which gives us some new characters. We get 8 more characters. And these 8 new characters, there's special effects. Many of them actually have the die faces of, I shouldn't say many, some of them have die faces. Their special abilities have to do with these new modules that have been added in. Either the whiskey jug, the duel, the rage cards, what have you. So that is the third module that's added into the mix. Then we get Undead or Alive. So that brings in some zombie cards. So this is the undead aspect of this expansion. It is recommended that you only use this expansion when you have more than 4 more players. Because what will happen here is that when you have a player eliminated, when it's their turn, they're going to draw a card. And the card is going to show either nothing, 1, or 2. Just like so, like we see here. And what'll happen is if at any point, and these cards stay out except for this, if you get a 0, it gets shuffled back into the deck. But anything that's got a number is going to stay out on the table. And whenever you draw another card, the zombie card, if at any point the numbers that are showing are more than the remaining living players, then there's a zombie outbreak. And the players who have been eliminated become zombies. And so there's still a little bit of player elimination because these zombies aren't super tough. But it kind of adds in another aspect where if you're eliminated, you could come back as a zombie. And your life is equal to how many people are still alive. So if there's only 2 players left and there's a zombie outbreak, each zombie is only going to have 2 health points. Now, I do want to point out if there is a renegade who has been eliminated and the zombie outbreak starts, they become the zombie master. So, and they regain, I shouldn't say regain, they retain their special abilities, right? So if you're a zombie, all you get to do is roll these 3 dice on your turn. That's it. That's all you get to do. Whereas if you were a renegade who was killed and you're the zombie master, you're still looking at playing. You're basically back into the game again, except once again, your health is going to be fairly low. It's going to be pretty low as far as that goes. And then the fifth aspect of the Undead or Alive expansion is simply giving you instructions on if you're going to play kind of a little bit almost like a campaign. If you're planning on playing multiple games, gives you some tips on okay, so as an example, whoever is the person who killed the sheriff last game is now the sheriff for the new game. So there's a few different. It's very very short. In fact, it's like three little bullet points. And once again, pretty easy as far as getting into the game. You just got the one sheet again. So and once again, like I said, you can choose which ones you want to use. You can choose to say, for an example, yeah, I want to do the undead, but I don't want the dual dice. Fine, don't do the dual dice. Maybe you don't want to do the rage cards. Maybe you just want to do the undead, or maybe you just want to do the rage cards, but not do the duel. That's fine. You can do any of those however you like. Like I said, it's pretty much plug and play as far as those 5 different modules, which I really think add some nice new wrinkles to the game, especially the people who really don't like the player elimination. Throw in the zombies, throw in the undead. And, you're still out of the game for a little bit, and then of course, gets to the point where everybody's just trying to kill the zombies. So, all right. Anyway, so that is it. That is both Bang the Dice game as well as the Undead or Alive expansions. So let's switch over to the other camera. I will share my final thoughts and my review scores. All right, so there you've got a bit of a how to play, as well as my thoughts on both Bang the Dice game, as well as its expansion, Undead or Alive. I am reviewing these both together as kind of one entity, because honestly, I would feel it's a bit of a cheat for me to just shoot like a 6-minute, 7-minute video for Undead or Alive. So I'm combining them both together. Do want to point out that we had a blast playing Bang the Dice game as well as the expansion. I do want to mention that I think it plays better with more players. With 3 players, there are some variant options, but not so great. 5 or more, it's really fun. 8 really does shine. I have played it at a party with 8 players, and everybody was having a blast. And some of these folks were not gamers by any stretch of the imagination. So I like the fact that the game plays very, very quickly, even though there is player elimination. For the most part, you're only out for maybe about 10 minutes or so, which gives you plenty of time to go to the bathroom and grab another drink, sit back down at the table, and you're good to go. Some people won't dig the luck factor. Plus, playing as the renegade can be pretty tough. They'll give you a little hint. Be sure to heal the sheriff from time to time, because he'll start to think you're a deputy. So, and he'll stay away from you as a renegade. I think that's pretty obvious strategy, right? Anyway, really, really enjoyed it, especially with 8 players. Also, the expansion, the Undead or Alive expansion, is not simply just adding a zombie apocalypse to the game. There are the new dice, there are the rage cards. We also have some variants as well, as far as if you're playing multiple games of Bang the Dice game. So there's quite a bit under the hood with that. And I do like the addition of the 2 new dice. Gives a little more flavor to it. There's a few things. For an example, if you get the whiskey jug, you can only heal yourself. You can't give that healing away. But as far as a dice chucking push your luck game, really, really had a great time. So on a score of 1 to 10, I give Bang the Dice game as well as the Undead or Alive expansion a very, very solid 9 out of 10. Enjoyed it that much, even though I had never played Bang. So I know there's thousands of games out there I have never played. Bang is one of them. So is Cash and Guns, which is sort of like Bang. I've never played that either. Oh well. So that's it for this time. Be sure to catch me live right here on YouTube, Mondays through Friday nights at 7 p.m. Central, as I bring you the Daily Dope, latest tabletop gaming news of the day. Of course, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And of course, if you have not subscribed to the channel, please do. And if you do, don't forget, ring that little bell, because it will not only notify you of when I upload new videos, such as this one, it'll also tell you when my stream goes live in about a minute or so. And of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all the latest in gaming news, reviews, comic books, movies. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. All right, until next time, happy trails. Zoobity-bitty-bitty-boo-boo. Zoobity-bitty-bitty-boo. Zabba-dabba-dabba-dabba-bum. Zibba. Whoa, hey. I didn't realize that you were still here. Well, if that's the case, then allow me to share the following information with you that I only have 20 seconds to do. So let's all take a deep breath. So, if you would like to subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel, please click right here. If you want to check out the latest episode of the Daily Dope, click right here. And if you'd like to check out a randomly selected standalone video, by all means, click right here. Once again, I'm Jeff McAleer, and thanks for watching.